We will now do a full analysis on the current state of Bitcoin mining in Norway. We will go through the following points. First, we will look at the electricity price zone system that Norway has. Then we will go through the fundamentals of power generation in Norway, demand, supply of electricity, how is that going to change over the future, and how electricity prices will develop and how they have been historically, what are the different components of electricity prices in Norway, what is the general access to power, thus access to new grid connections, how is that going in Norway, is it easy, is it difficult to find new sites, etc. What are the heat reuse opportunities in Norway? It's a cold country, could there be any opportunities there? Then I will show you the biggest Bitcoin miners that operate in Norway right now. Then we will talk about the government's opposition to the mining industry and different regulatory aspects. And in the end, we will go through the future of mining in Norway. I will come with my personal conclusion on that. And in the end, key takeaways for miners. This is a snapshot of Bitcoin mining in Norway as of early 2026. So according to Hashrate Index, Norway holds about 1.5% of the global hash rate share. That is about 16 exahash. This is a halving from Norway's hash rate share about 2 years ago. So basically the rest of the Bitcoin mining industry has grown very fast over the past 2 years, while Norway has not really kept up. It's just standing stable at what it has for the last 2 or 3 years. But 1.5% is of course still very substantial for a country such a small size as Norway. And miners in Norway use about 320 megawatts, about 1.8% of the total power production in Norway, assuming that miners run at close to 100% uptime. And the electricity mix in Norway is 90% hydropower, a little bit wind power, and less than 1% natural gas, but that natural gas is only used to power the offshore oil industry. So essentially, mining in Norway is 100% renewable and predominantly hydro, as you can see. Norway has among the highest share of hydropower in the world. Climate, very important factor in mining. Climate in Norway, as everyone knows, is cold. So it's cold and clean air, which is perfect for mining, both air-cooled, hydro, etc. Then the regulatory profile of mining in Norway. Mining is under scrutiny in Norway, and the government is trying to push back primarily by making it more difficult for new miners to get new grid accesses. It's a competition for this grid access, as I will explain later in the video. What power prices can miners get in Norway? About $38 per megawatt hour all in. And that's very good considering that miners in Norway can run at close to 100% uptime. So you have a very stable electricity system powered by an oversupply of hydropower, and that gives very low electricity prices. We will go through the different components of the electricity price later in the video. To summarize, Norway combines cheap power, cold climate, and political stability, but faces increasing regulatory pressure. We'll come back to that as well. The first and the most important factor to understand about the electricity market in Norway and how to buy electricity is that the electricity prices. First of all, there is a deregulated electricity market in Norway that is, it's like merged together with the Swedish market, Finnish market, Baltic, and wider European market. So it's a very deregulated market. There are a lot of electricity suppliers in Norway. You can buy from them electricity. But the key here is that the electricity price will be indexed to the region. So the market in Norway is split into 5 price zones, and the price is different in the different price zones. So you can go to the power market. When you get quotes for power, you will see that the prices vary between NO4, NO3, NO1, etc. And the reason why we have this system in Norway is because there are severe transmission constraints between the northern and southern parts of the country. It's a very mountainous area. it's hard to build transmission lines over there, and it's quite dense, quite little people who live in this area also. So there is a little incentive historically to like really build a lot of transmission here. So that creates a situation where the power that is produced in the north in NO4, NO3 is largely stranded and has to be consumed within that region. Of course, we have a relatively good connection with Sweden. But Sweden also has the same problem. And northern Sweden has very low prices, a lot of hydropower, while southern Sweden has much higher prices. So there is like you can view this line going also into Sweden here, dividing northern Norway, northern Sweden. It's like a common area, I would say, with regards to the price dynamics, and south of Norway and south of Sweden here. So the important thing to be aware of is that only NO4 and NO3 have Bitcoin mining friendly prices. So NO4 has the cheapest prices, and then NO3 also has relatively good prices. So all Bitcoin mining happens in the north. Before 2022, energy crisis started, and a few new cables were built, subsea cables to Europe. So before that, the prices were also very low in the south of Norway, and there were a lot of Bitcoin miners there as well, but they all had to shut down after 2022 when prices increased in these three zones. Some of them moved up north, and some of them just stopped being a Bitcoin miner. So what is the fundamental structure of the power generation in Norway? I mentioned that 90% of electricity in Norway is produced by hydropower, and that is especially in the NO4, is like basically only hydropower, a little bit wind here and there, but not much. So there was a huge amount of hydropower plants being built after the Second World War in Norway. In the 90s, they basically stopped building new power plants in Norway. And now they haven't built a new hydropower plant in many, many years. Only a little bit wind power has been built over the past, let's say, 10 to 15 years. But even that has stopped now because the indigenous people, like who have reindeers, etc., they don't like wind power because it occupies their land where they have the reindeer. So there is a huge political issue about building out new wind power in Norway. So all new power projects have been basically stopped in Norway. So the main important thing to know is that there will be very little new generation capacity built in Norway. So this is important to realize, because if there is little new supply coming in, but demand keeps increasing, we might see higher prices in the future, even in the NO4 and NO3 regions, as more data centers start operations there, etc. And over time, this transmission constraint might be east when they build new lines, but that will take many years. Yeah, what I'm saying is that the very low prices in NO4 and NO3 are not going to last forever. It's just depending how long will these prices stay much lower than in the south of Norway, because one day they will converge. The question is just when. It will probably take a few years, but over time they will converge. But yeah, also another advantage is that Norway has such a huge amount of hydropower. It's an extremely good baseload electricity and also very flexible renewable energy. So Norway has a very, very stable electricity grid. I grew up in Norway and I barely remember any power outages, anything. It's a very stable grid. And this picture is actually from close to where my family is from, in the north of Norway. It's showing at one of the dams where they produce electricity. I think so here you see the dam here, and this is on top of a mountain. Norway has a lot of these lakes on top of mountains. It's raining a lot there. So they built all these dams, and there are some pipes. It's usually like piped hydro. So you have pipes where the hydro is sent down, the water is sent down under a very big pressure, and that produces a lot of electricity. So yeah. So here is the electricity generation capacity by source in the north of Norway. We see about 10 gigawatts, 10.6 gigawatts of hydro, 3.4 gigawatts of wind, and then like a little bit other renewable. I don't even know what that is. So total generation capacity is about 14 gigawatts. So it's nothing compared to, let's say, Texas, for example, but from a European perspective, it's quite okay. And it's definitely more than is being consumed by the population of Northern Norway. So here you can see the historical spot power prices in Northern Norway. As you can see, in NO3, the like second northernmost region of Norway, prices have been on average 38 USD per megawatt hour over these past 10 years, while in NO4 prices have been on average $32 per megawatt hour. So we see there is some difference about, I think it's about 10-15% lower prices in NO4 compared to NO3 on the spot price. We see that especially in 2025, prices were extremely low, less than $10 per megawatt hour in NO4, and but they usually average out to about 32 per megawatt hour. And yeah, I see some people making some financial projections about mining in Norway, and they think that prices will always stay like $9 or $15 per megawatt hour. That is, then you have not looked far enough back in the history. So I think it will stay around 32 for the next 5 years. Could even increase, as I said, because there's no new generation capacity coming up. While at the same time, a lot of data centers are setting up shop there, a lot of miners, a lot of AI data centers, and also they are talking about electrifying a big gas production facility that previously was powered by natural gas. So there is some interest to electrify that. It will consume several hundred of megawatts. So yeah, all this new demand is coming to Northern Norway, but supply is not coming. So we will see how long this really low prices will last, but probably a few more years, but definitely not over, let's say, 10 or 15 years. I really strongly doubt that they will stay that low. The important thing to realize here is that this is spot prices only. So Norway has a decentralized, deregulated market where you can buy the spot price, but you still have to pay for the grid fees, which are regional, depending on the operator where in that territory. And you also have to pay some power taxes as well. So the final power price will be higher than this, and I will show you soon. So this is a breakdown of the expected all-in power cost of mining in Norway. So using the 10-year historical average spot price in NO4 is $32 per megawatt hour. And then we can say $7 per megawatt hour in grid fees. And that is on the, I would say, on the lower end, because if you have a small mining operation and you just pay normal grid fees, like other businesses, you will, in some places, you will pay quite high grid fees. I know some people who pay up to $20 per megawatt hour in grid fees. It's extremely dependent on where you are. So if you're mining in Norway, you can have a huge benefit if you can get a connection in a place where there is a low grid fee. So some places have almost no grid fees in Norway. There is, for example, an industrial park in northern Norway, Glomfjord. There, I think the grid fee is almost zero. But I don't know about anymore because with AI coming and everything is getting quite high demand to connect to the grid. So grid fees might have increased a bit, but yeah, overall there is a huge divergence between the low and high grid fees. But I think Bitcoin miners, if they are smart, then they can get like around $7 per megawatt hour. So then we're already at 39 in all-in cost. And then you have power tax, that is $4 per megawatt hour. That power tax was before $13 per megawatt hour, but it was reduced to 4 from 1st of January 2026 because the Norwegian government wanted to please the population who complained about high electricity prices. So they just basically reduced the power tax a lot. And that was very good for Bitcoin miners or other energy intensive industries as well. And then you can do some spot optimization. Like you don't have to, some of these hours, not many, but few of them, like they will be a bit above the break-even for mining. You can shut off your machines then, sell electricity back to the grid. You can do demand response in some places. So I expect about $5 per megawatt hour. You can get a reduction by just optimizing. So then the total all-in cost for a large-scale Bitcoin mining operation in Norway is expected at around $38 per megawatt hour. And that is very good considering that you can mine with close to 100% uptime in Norway in a very cold climate that has really great cooling. I would also say there is no import tariffs, nothing. So when you look at it that way, when people in Texas say they have $30 per megawatt hour, I would say that, first of all, you have to reduce your uptime significantly in Texas to achieve that. And secondly, all that extra power you need to spend on cooling will mean that you will effectively pay a higher price per kilowatt hour used by your machines. And you also have to pay import tariffs and everything on the machines and everything. So all considering, the prices for mining in Norway for the power are very, very, very good. The question is just how long will they stay so good? Yeah, this is the power tax I talked about. So you see here from 13 to $4 dollar per megawatt hour. So $9 per megawatt hour reduction permanently from 2026. So that's a huge benefit for Bitcoin miners and other big electricity consumers. Access to power in Norway, that is the hard nut to crack. So let's say before 2019 to 20, miners in Norway could relatively easily get new land and electricity, but this battle for electricity has hardened significantly over the past few years, and now especially with the entrance of AI projects. So now, as you can see here in this picture, this is a picture of Aker N-Scale project in northern Norway. This is an AI data center. Aker is one of Norway's biggest industrial conglomerates, and they have partnered with N-Scale, which is an AI company. And they're building a huge AI data center here. I don't remember exactly how large it's going to be, but very large. And I'm not sure that the property looks like this right now. It's probably look a bit more developed, but this is the picture I found. So powered land is becoming very valuable. There is a scarcity in connections. So everyone are trying to get access to electricity in Norway, not only AI and miners, but also like fish farms. There is a lot of businesses who need access to electricity, charging stations, etc. There is a general electrification trend in society, and people need electricity. While there is very little new build out of substations, new connection points. So these connection points have become very, very valuable, and it makes it extremely difficult for miners to source large capacities. Honestly, I think if you think you can go and get like 100 megawatt in Norway as a miner, you are extremely naive. Because there's a lot of other people ahead of you in line, AI companies. There are AI companies in Norway who have like tens of employees whose only job is to scout for electricity in Norway, calling all the properties. So there is a big competition. It's easier to find small capacities. So basically the miners are left with the crumbles right now. Most new mining developments are very small, so 5 megawatt or less. And there is a kind of a loophole in the regulation because the government has made it so that sites below 2.3 megawatt at 100% uptime, so connections with this amount of electricity, assuming 100% uptime, 2.3 megawatt, they have to connect very fast to the grid. The grid company needs to give them very quick access. So they are extremely fast to set up and get approval for these small connections. So a lot of miners in the north of Norway are just building out this really small microsites now just to get them going. And yeah, so this is how you can do it in Norway if you're a miner, but you can't really build anything big anymore. And I will tell the history of this property. This a local power company in this region is called Nordkraft, and I don't know if they already owned it or they bought it, but essentially they secured this property many years ago, probably in like 2018 or something, because they understood that this property will have access to enormous amount of electricity and it will become very valuable. So this power company were extremely smart. They understood the future. They were visionary. They understood that powered land will become a concept. They even created a website called something like Nordkraft Powered Land, and there they listed this property along with some others. And I think they didn't really want that these properties end up with Bitcoin mining. They wanted to reserve them for what they thought were more productive uses of electricity. I'm not going to argue with them about that. But what ended up happening was that they planned to use this property for something like hydrogen or battery factory, like one of these new green industries that were really hyped in 2020, 2021, but nothing materialized. And then the AI boom came and Aker Enscale started AI site here. So this power company, they just hodl this property for many years because they understood that power land will be scarce. So this just tells a lot about the situation in Norway, and now everyone are waking up to the idea that powered land is very valuable. Like yeah, so access to power is very difficult in Norway, and the only way to enter is to just get these small sites up, and also heat reuse. So there is a big demand for heat in Norway. There is a cold country. People need heat, and it's usually easier to get access to connections. If you want to rent land from someone, if you can say that you can sell the heat to them, then you can usually easier get access to collaborate with some industrial parks or some fish farms or other production facilities, as well as district heating plants. Then you can easier get access to electricity connections. It's also, of course, much better for the image of a miner if they can reuse the heat. It is good for society to take that heat. And but the important thing here is that there is a low willingness in Norway to pay for that heat. People in Norway have been used to, because heating is electric in Norway, and electricity has been so cheap over time that people have become, they don't understand that they have to pay for that. They don't see heating as something they should pay for. So it's difficult there is not a well-developed heating market in Norway. So that means that you have to go into these bilateral negotiations with like a owner of some fish farm or something, and he will probably tell you that he's not willing to pay so much for that heat. And he can tell that because he understands that electricity is scarce, and he can see that you really want to have access to electricity that he has allocation to on his property. So therefore, he will just not want to pay us so much for the heat. So that's the situation. but it's still better than nothing. And I would say that the future of mining in Norway is in fact small heat reuse projects like 2 megawatt, 1 megawatt, even 250 kilowatt, like small projects. Here is a heat reuse project that we set up in Norway, Hash Labs. So this is heating 3 industrial buildings. You see hot water going in and out of these pipes, heated by Watts miner machines that are inside this cabinet, and is working very, very well. The owner of these properties he's very happy with this solution. So heat reuse is a very nice way for mining to fit nicely into society in Norway and bring some benefits for the community and for everyone involved in the project. So it's a win-win and a good way to mine in Norway. Who are the Bitcoin miners in Norway? So there are countless of small players around the industry in Norway with these small sites. Let's talk about the big players. So the most famous Bitcoin miner in Norway is Bitdeer. They operate in the NO3 region. They have 2 very large sites, the biggest sites in Norway. But and they are even expanding. But Bitdeer is transitioning to AI. I believe that both their Norwegian sites are on the verge of transitioning to AI. This, I think, will be very, very good sites. And then we have BitZero. That is one. I think they have 2 sites in Norway, if I'm not mistaken. This is one of their sites. So you see here, this is BitZero site. They have containers lined up here. And yeah, I think if you want to mine in Norway, you have to have a good relationship with the local community. And from what I've heard and read in the newspaper, BitZero has a very good relationship with the community, and that is very critical in Norway. Because if you don't have that in Norway, then it will only lead to problems. But yeah, they can come in here and consume power that the municipality have in excess, which is very good for everyone. So I think that every big site in Norway will likely transition to AI at some point. So all big mining sites will become AI sites. And we're already seeing that happening with Bitdeer. I don't know about BitZero, but I guess that they also have this idea. We also saw in the northern Norway, Nscale, they transitioned one site in Glomfjord to AI. I'm not sure that they already did that, but at least I know that they worked on it. And yeah, a few other sites in the north are also being transitioned to AI. So there will be like all the big sites in Norway over time will go to AI, and everything that will be left of mining will be small sites, ideally with heat reuse. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. There have been so many throughout the years, since like 2018. There has been so much writing in the newspaper about the government of Norway hate mining. That has led to people really thinking that Norway is a dangerous country for miners. But I would actually argue the opposite. Imagine that you were in Paraguay or Argentina. Yeah, there you can say that, yeah, government supporting mining, but it's a wild west. Things there can change like this. In Norway, things don't change fast. Even if the government says that they don't like mining, they will likely not do anything about it because they follow all the rules. We have a constitution that is respected. We have to follow the rules of some rules of the EEA as well. So Norway has a very well-developed legal system, and the government can't just because they say in the media that they don't like mining, it doesn't mean that they can't just come with police forces and take your machines or anything like that. So that's the advantage of Norway. It's a very safe country. You can feel safe. Your assets are protected. Yeah, maybe the government is not so supportive, but that doesn't really matter because as long as the whole structure of society is built to support people's rights in business, then it doesn't matter that you don't have the government support. because you have the support of the whole system. So I would say that Norway has a very good political stability that is very good for mining. But the government doesn't like mining. That is fully clear. And most Norwegians in general, culturally, are very conservative. Norwegians don't like big changes. They don't like new technologies. They're always afraid. Like, you can view Norwegians, they're sitting in their on top of their mountain and looking at the world. They don't understand the world. They're afraid a bit. So that's just the Norwegian mentality, and it also applies to mining. But Norwegians are not aggressive. So even though they don't like something, it doesn't mean that they will really attack it very aggressively. But yeah, the government of Norway doesn't like mining, and there is a complicated history with data centers and mining in Norway. So I think it was around 2018, Norway created a national data center strategy. They wanted to get in data centers, and because of that, they put data centers into a category of industry for the power tax and the power intensive industry, which have like less power taxes. And then a lot of miners started coming into Norway, and government was happy because they didn't yet understand that all these data centers were Bitcoin miners. But eventually, after a couple of years, they understood that what they did by reducing the power tax for miners or for data centers only led to a huge increase in mining activity, which was not something they really was the idea of that data center strategy. They basically they moved out data centers again from that power tax category of special tariffs. And of course, the rest of the data center industry, who were not miners, were very unhappy about that. And some of them were quite angry at the Bitcoin miners that like destroyed the whole industry, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, miners stayed in Norway. Even after that tax increase of like 1.3 cent per kilowatt hour, miners still stayed in Norway. Because it was still so low power prices that you could profitably mine. It just was not so profitable as it was before. Yeah, then they started talking about, they understood that this didn't work, this didn't get rid of the industry. They started talking about how they can ban mining. They have been discussing for like 3 years how they can find a way to ban mining, like a loophole in the laws of Norway they can use. So far, they haven't really found anything. And I would also say that I think all of this is driven by lobbyism from competitors. I think there is so many companies who want access to that electricity in northern Norway, but they are outcompeted by miners who are much faster than them, and therefore they are using some tricks to influence the government to make some campaign against miners. I'm really sure that this is what is going on. It's common in all industries. So I would say that the government has now found a way to do a kind of a lightweight ban on Bitcoin mining in Norway. So this is what they said. We will investigate a temporary ban on establishing new data centers whose primary business is power-intensive cryptocurrency mining. So what that basically means, and I looked into this, is that we already seen that miners in Norway, they need to register or all data centers in Norway, they must register in a data center registry. And in that registry, they need to tick a box if you're a Bitcoin miner or a crypto miner or not. And that way the government gets data on which companies are involved in crypto mining. And you have this list. And this list is public, by the way, if you want to find it. And then we have also the Planning and Building Act. So the Planning and Building Act of Norway is basically determining how the local municipalities can zone properties. Of the specifications in the Planning and Building Act is that if there is of national interest, the national government can overrule that local municipality ability to zone properties for specific business purposes. So the status now is that the government is investigating whether they can combine this data center registry, the Planning and Building Act, and national interest language to prevent municipalities from being allowed to zone properties for new data centers that will do Bitcoin mining. So all of this is, I would say, very complicated. I really doubt that it can even be done, to be honest. And the government has worked on, they have investigated this thing like for probably 1 year almost now, and nothing has really materialized. So I don't know if it ever will happen anything about this, but I think the signal from coming with these statements in the media and having all the political parties coming out together for the first time in history, they were actually agreeing on something, all of them, that they will do this and make life hard for miners. I think that statement alone is enough to scare all the big operations in mining operations in Norway away from expanding and away from even starting in Norway. And that might even drive them into faster transitioning to AI, etc. So I think these statements these statements alone were enough to scare miners out of Norway, at least the very big ones. Like the small ones, they just keep expanding like nothing happened. So if this was caused by lobbyism from competitors due to competition for electricity, then I think just these statements and this planning was enough for the government to achieve that goal. So we will see if they actually really will follow through with that. But I think small miners will find a way to structure their business to get through this. Like the nice thing about Norway is that the government need to follow the rules, and so there is always some things you can do to keep operating. But yeah, I would just finish this with saying that, yeah, as I said, Norway is a politically stable country. Changes usually take a long time politically and regulatory. So I think it's looking okay in Norway compared to most other countries for mining. It's just in Norway the politicians have gone out a bit more aggressively against mining, but it's still a very stable country. What is the future of mining in Norway? I already mentioned that I think there will be more small sites. I think all the big sites will transition to AI at some point. It will gradually decline because the big sites transition to AI and also this political opposition, etc. Growth of small sites with heat reuse. Then we also will probably see in northern Norway power prices may rise over time. The question is just when that will happen. But I still think Norway will be okay to very good place to mine in the future. So what are the takeaways of mining in Norway? Growth is slowing, very good power prices. Cold climate is a big advantage. It's a politically stable country, but there is a political opposition to the mining industry. The mining industry in Norway has an uncertain future, but it will largely stay quite stable, and if it declines, it will happen slowly. If it grows, it will also happen slowly. That's how things are in Norway. Things go slowly in Norway. If you like this video and want to see future videos like this, like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And also you can go to hashlabs.io/insights and read articles, reports, etc. Our podcast is there as well, and subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you very much for watching.